Or if the bomb that drops on you gets your friends and neighbors too, there'll be nobody left behind to grieve, and we will all go together when we go. What a comforting fact that is to know.
Hello and thank you for watching the John Doe Prepper channel. I am your host, John A. Whitman, and today I am going to be trying to replicate A-TACS FG camouflage with spray paint for some of these pouches that will go on my battle belt. I have already successfully done this with a USGI surplus bandolier, 2 pairs of compact binoculars, and my rifle. So now that I am fairly confident in my abilities to actually do this and not make it look like crap, I will now do this little instructional video. So I have here a multi-tool bag. It's a SOG power lock multi-tool bag. You can see for this one I've masked off the hook and loop because I'm going to actually get the inside of the flap and stuff here. Otherwise, I would just keep that closed to not get anything on the hook and loop. And I got this canteen pouch, Rothko, and some Krydex pistol mag pouches, and a dump pouch. So I have these all as close as they are together because as I spray one, the overspray will hit the next one down the line, and that will actually save me a little bit of paint. So my colors that I'm using, these are all Rust-Oleum camouflage. Doesn't really matter what brand you're using as long as it's not like some weird off-brand you've never heard of that's probably garbage. But I have sand, khaki, army green, and deep forest green. So the way that I do this camouflage is I start off with a base coat of sand, and then I add blotches of khaki to that, so you get that like mottled tan base. I forgot to bring out my A-TACS FG cap to show you what I mean, but I'll just bring up some A-TACS FG stuff up on screen in post. But so I'll get that mottled tan base down. Then I add really light mists of the deep forest green to get sort of the dark brownish tan looking areas. And then I add little highlights of the army green. So I'm going to show that whole process here. Hopefully it doesn't get too windy and my crap doesn't go flying all over the place. But yeah. So we shall commence with the painting with the sand. So I'll get that all shaken up and we will transition to the actual painting process right now. Alright, so I have my sand ready to go. Also, it's worth noting, because these are nylon, and also because it'll help make the pattern look all that much better, I'm not going to try to get a perfect, even, completely pristine coat on here. Because number one, A-TACS FG is a very splotchy, mottled looking pattern anyway. And B, because if you get way too much paint on nylon specifically, it will significantly decrease the lifespan of the paint job. It'll start to crack and chip and all that crap. So the way I start painting is I start over one side of the object, I start the spray, move across, and then right after I pass it, I let go again. And then I just give it light little dustings. Like so. You can see that side is already done, and that was barely anything. And then I come over top here. Same thing. The bottom. And this other side, which you might not be able to see very well. And then finally, the top of the flap. That I might try to get a little bit more heavily coated, just to cover up that big white insignia. But there we go. There's the sand base coat for the multi-tool pouch. And then onto the canteen pouch, same thing. Now this being olive green and not black, I can get away with painting this even less, because that olive green is already kind of in the realm of the color palette we want for this pattern. So just a real quick note, I would not recommend doing this on things that are going to rub a lot. So things like backpack straps or chest rig straps and such, I would not recommend doing this to, because the paint will just rub off and it'll get all over your crap, and that'll suck. There we go with the pistol pouches. Get the bottom of those little plastic inserts. Now for the dump pouch, I'm gonna get this outer flap just kind of lightly dusted. The little pull tab there. Hopefully you guys can see all this and my camera work isn't super crappy. But there, that's done. And again, doesn't have to be perfect, because A-TACS FG is very much not a perfect camouflage. Now that I've done that on all of these, I am going to switch over to the other side of some of them. I don't want to completely get the back of these, because that would be against the belt and that would rub a lot. But like on the back of the top of the canteen pouch, which will not be against the belt, I'll get there, and along the sides of the pouch, and that half of the bottom that I wasn't able to get. But I'm going to avoid getting that actual MOLLE interface too much, because that is a high friction area. This one is pretty good. Don't really need to. Went a little heavy there. There we go. And then for this, I'm definitely not gonna bother flipping it over. This, not gonna, because that's all MOLLE there, but I will open this up and get the actual mesh bag itself once it's expanded. But for now, I'm gonna switch to the khaki and show you how I do that. And then we will go on to the greens. And now for the khaki. This is not as necessary for these as it is for the for hard surfaces like the binoculars and rifle that I did, but I'll still do it anyway. So I'm just gonna, just little blotches, right? Not trying to completely cover it, obviously, because then what was the point of doing the sand if you're just gonna completely cover it with something else, right? So I'm just adding the little blotches of khaki to get that lovely mottled tan that we're looking for. And that's it. Super, super easy. I'll get a little spritz on the other side of that, what do you call it? That top flap there. And that is the khaki done. Now for the deep forest green, I'm going to hold this nozzle further away so that I get nice, soft, thin mists of it. I'm not trying to get, you know, big, bold stripes or anything. I'm trying to get soft, smooshy little blotches. So I'm going to hold this way back here. I don't know how well it's going to show up on camera, but it just barely darkened it up a little bit compared to just the pure tan. This might be easier to see. There. See that? It just added a little dark splotch, little splooch right there. That's what we're looking for. And you do want to leave some areas just tan, obviously, because A-TACS FG does have tan in it. There's a nice little dark green splotch on the pistol pouch, pistol mag pouch. Get a little green on there. on the little bits of the mesh that are exposed. There. That is the deep forest green. And then finally the army green. We're going back to kind of a bold, deep color, so I'll get closer with that one again. But we're just trying to add little itty bitty spots, like little highlights. And like I said, I will put A-TACS FG camo up on screen so you can see what it looks like. I'm gonna have the deep forest green still handy. If I can get the freaking cap off here. There we go. Shake up my army green here. I went a little too light on the green on the multi-tool pouch, it looks like, so I'll just, with the army, or the deep forest green there, add a bit more of that. And then the army green, I'm gonna go right in the center of that dark green splotch and just boop, done. There's my little light green area. And obviously, this will be a lot easier to see the difference of in better lighting. Gonna add a bit more deep forest green to that one as well. And then again, right in the center of that dark green, just a little, that one's a little bit bigger, but you see what it is. You have your dark green, and then you just have a little of light green, a little psh, right in the center of it. That's probably the best one I've done so far. See what I mean? And that is basically your redneck rattle canned A-TACS FG. Is it perfect? No. Is it roughly the same color palette and roughly the same blotch pattern? Yes, it is. So I will, now that I've kind of basically shown all the steps, it's basically just rinse and repeat until you've covered the whole thing. So I'm going to keep doing that. Once these are finished and at least dry enough to touch, I will then show you the finished products, and then I'll probably go inside and show you the binoculars and bandolier that I did previously, just to give you more examples of how this looks. All right, these are definitely not fully dry, but they're at least not tacky, so I can touch them to show you. There's the multi-tool pouch. Again, didn't really bother getting paint on the back there, because why bother? You're never going to see it when it's on the belt. There's the canteen pouch. Same thing. Why bother to get the webbing when you're never going to see it? Same thing here. The webbing is darn near pristine, but the rest of it is this nice mottled tan with the little green highlights. And here is the dump pouch, which I am actually quite proud of, especially that little bit on the flap there. That is just about perfect. That's exactly what I wanted. For the mesh, I did go really light on the paint, because obviously you don't really need to put all that much on there to change the color of the mesh. Also got a little bit on the back there. You can see I forgot to cut that little Cridex label off, but oh well, again, pretty much never gonna see it. But yeah, got little bits of green on the mesh as well, so I didn't just kind of dust it with the tan and call it a day. I actually put the full pattern on there. I did a really good job without even putting masking tape on it, of avoiding that little loop panel there. This one, not so much. I did get a little bit of sand on there, but oh well, not the end of the world. But yeah, I think these turned out pretty well. You can see I took the tape off of the hook and loop there, so I will let these fully cure, probably overnight, or at the very least for a few hours before bringing them inside and putting them back on my belt. All right, so hopefully this shows up well in this kind of funky lighting with my ceiling light on and a window open. But here's that bandolier that I rattle canned. This used to be UCP, so even if I would have messed this up horribly, it still would have been better than better camouflage than UCP of all things. But you can see I did the exact same thing. Sand base, beige, or not beige, sorry, khaki splotches then deep forest green splotches, and then these highlights with the army green. I did go a little bit too hard on this with the deep forest green the first time, so then I went ahead and did some more little tan highlights here and there just to kind of break that up a bit. Even did the neck strap, as you can see, same thing. Little splotches of the dark and light green, and then it goes back to that dirty mottled tan look, which is exactly what you want. For the back side, I didn't really bother putting any greens on here because that's just against my body anyway, but I did go over it with the sand. And you can just barely see some of the UCP splotches still peeking through the tan, which is perfect because just that alone gives you that mottled tan look that you want. So for this, I probably honestly didn't even need the beige at all. But again, that's the beauty of coating this really lightly, is number one, it kind of gives you that mottled look you want for A-TACS FG anyway. And then number two, it dries a lot quicker. And then of course, number three, and probably the most important one, the cloth is still, the fabric is still nice and supple and able to move around. It doesn't get all stiff on you, and it doesn't start flaking off with the paint and everything. But there's, again, the bandolier. One thing I will say with this, if you're going to do something like this, please don't do what I did and not mask off these snaps, because they're already kind of stiff anyway, and so they were even stiffer with the paint on them, so I had to sand the paint off of them afterwards. So anyway, here's one of those pairs of binoculars that I was talking about that I painted as well. You can see I masked off the lenses there so they wouldn't get paint on them. And then on this side, I put some A-TACS FG scrim material over the lenses and taped them on with some fabric tape. And then I just put those lenses down on the cardboard to protect them from getting any paint. But I put that scrim material there to kind of help reduce glare, kind of like a little improvised kill flash. And it also, of course, makes it so that you don't have these two perfectly black, dark, perfect circles, which would stand out like a sore thumb against like a woodland environment or in a field or something. Kind of signature reduction 101 there. Speaking of which, I'm thinking of actually making a video all about signature reduction, so these binoculars will probably make an appearance in that as well. Just another quick thing to note about this too, you can see all those lovely greased parts in there have no paint on them. That's because I did that before painting it, specifically to stop crap from getting in there. But as you can see, I can still adjust them just fine and everything. The hinges work just fine for folding the binoculars out, and I can see through them just fine. I highly doubt I'm going to be able to get that on camera. But same thing. Sand base, beige blotches, forest green blotches, and then the little highlights of the army green. And you have an A-TACS FG-esque pattern. So, with all that being said, that is how I replicate A-TACS FG with spray paint. I hope you all enjoyed this video, found it helpful, found it educational. Obviously, the same basic principles could be applied to replicating just about any camouflage pattern with spray paint. And of course, it doesn't have to perfectly match your camo. As long as it's more or less the same color palette, it'll blend pretty nice. But there you are. Once again, I hope you found this helpful. Thank you for watching the video. If you liked it, consider liking it, leaving a comment for the algorithm, and subscribing to the channel. And if you're crazy enough to want to deal with me and my weirdness 24/7, consider joining the Discord server. The link to that, as always, is in the About section on my channel page. And with that, I bid you all farewell. This is John A. Whitman, signing off. Thanks again for watching, and I will catch you next time on the John Doe Prepper channel. Bye.
We will all go together when we go, all suffused with an incandescent glow. No one will have the endurance to collect on his insurance. Lloyds of London will be loaded when they go.